Hello. Okay. Let's see who joins. Hello. This is so strange, especially in lockdown. Hello, everyone. You guys can hear me well, right? Nice. Okay. Let's wait a little bit so people can join and we can start this. Because, I mean, we're a bit late, but it should be fine. Hola, Manu. We haven't talked in like a long time. Oh, there is Martin. Nice from Patagonia. Okay, let's just start this. It's 24 people for now, but I think like people will start joining throughout. So strange to be here in Tokyo and talking to people wherever you guys are. It's really fun. So it's 8:03 p.m. in Tokyo right now. I think it should be about 1 p.m. where you guys are. So yeah, literally like the other side of the world. So we're gonna do this talk. Yeah. Skyline, there is no skyline right now. It's like pitch black right now. But we should have some fun. We should have like a nice chat. If the earthquakes that have been happening in Tokyo over the last few days doesn't disrupt the chat, but should be nice. So my name is Curro de la Villa. I used to be a student, Miami Art School, Madrid, like 10 years ago. I did like the 2 years between Madrid and the other places, and it was super nice when Anna told me to join these chats that you guys are doing, because like I think one of the things I miss the most from being in Spain is actually like that school and like the interaction with teachers and when I was teaching there later on, also like the interaction with students and everything. Like I think like the classes there were like something super fun to do, but when I moved to Amsterdam I couldn't keep doing it. But it was really nice, and I'm super happy that I can be here talking to you guys, and I hope that in a bit we can be responding to your questions, and this is useful for all of you guys. So yeah, as I was saying, my name is Curro. I'm creative director in Wieden Kennedy Tokyo. I've been here barely for like 2 months, but it's been fun and strange at the same time with the whole lockdown. And I think everyone is going through interesting times, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys. But it's been super fun so far, and actually this talk is nice for me because it allows me a little bit to also talk to someone. We're gonna make this a bit different than the other chats that you guys have. I think I'm gonna be talking about my experience over the first 15 minutes, I think, and then we're gonna invite one of the students to talk with me. And I think it's good if like somebody's carrying on the questions, and this is a little bit more like interactive. So as I was saying, it was super cool when Anna told me to be part of this, but then when I saw the other speakers that you guys have on these talks, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with these people. Every one of them is like way more experienced and successful than I am, but I think like, anyway, let's do it. I think like maybe it's interesting for you guys, this chat, because even though I finished Miami Art School 10 years ago, I pretty much still feel like super close to the students and the school, and I feel like I'm very close to the experience I had then. So maybe I can give you guys a point of view of somebody who went through the whole Miami Art School course and then like went out into the world in a situation pretty similar to what you guys are going through right now. And I think like it was amazing to listen also like the other point of view. Like I think you guys had Paco Conde, which was in Rushmore when I was starting to work, and Pablo González de la Peña, and he was like probably one of the first people who saw my portfolio. So it's very interesting to see how everything is connected throughout. So I wanted to do this chat around one theme, but then as I was thinking through the last few days, I think it's maybe interesting not to focus on one thing only. But the main theme that came to mind when I was talking about this was the idea of being stubborn. And I feel like that's something that it's not a skill, it's maybe more like a way of like behaving when you finish Miami Art School that was very helpful to me. And I think I finished Miami Art School in a situation very similar to what you guys are right now. I finished around 2009, and it was like right when the the whole market crisis happened in the US, and then it came to Spain, and things were very, very rough. So I think there is a similarity in the situation, and I think like that stubbornness that I'm going to talk about later, it's something that might help you now when you're going out into the world. So, you know, that's a little bit like the angle, and I think like it might be useful for you guys. So I'll talk a little bit about me. I think I think like the people can join later, but I think we're a nice number now. So I studied advertising in public college in Murcia, in a small town in the southeast of Spain. And after finishing studying advertising, I wasn't sure what to do. I think like, you know, something that I realized through the years is like advertising was interesting to study when I was in Spain, but they didn't really teach me anything that was very specific and very, very exciting. It was like very much like general knowledge about what advertising is. And I don't think like I was super clear about what I wanted to do with it when I finished. And so I was looking for what to do. I was looking for like, you know, something extra to study to have a chance to actually like in the future get out of Spain. And Miami Art School was there. My two parents are teachers, so they didn't have much money, to be honest. But I was very lucky, and I think like being lucky is also something that you're gonna need through everything when you finish studying and get into the working environment. I was very lucky because my godfather at the time, he offered to pay for Miami Art School, but my parents were very clear. They were like, yeah, we can pay for that, but then not much more. So you're gonna have to work your ass off when you go there. So I went to Madrid. I did the first year in Madrid, and I think like the first year in Madrid was amazing. I think like it's something for those of you who are studying there, and yeah, Murcia. For those of you who are studying there in your first year, I think like it's great to be super ambitious and want to crack great ideas in your first year in the school and everything. But what I took out from that first year is basically like learning how to be, as I was saying before, how to be stubborn and resilient and how to work very hard. I think like after I finished Miami Art School, probably none of the ideas I have in my portfolio were from that first year. But I do think like what I learned in that first year was like collaboration, was like getting in touch with people who are in the industry, learning more about the industry. And more than everything else, like working in teams and working a lot. Like I think like I remember going to the school and doing the classes, and then after the classes, I remember going to the housing that we had, and spending hours working on like, you know, Photoshop and Cinema 4D and animation and things like that, because I felt like that year was my year to shape the skills that I will need the next year and afterwards. So when you guys go through that first years in the Miami Art School, don't get super stressed with like having to crack all the ideas and having perfect insights and everything. I think it's a year for you guys to train and almost like go to the gym and muscle up to have a brain ready for what's to come. And then my second year the first year was a lot about that and having fun and, you know, not much pressure and everything. The second year was kind of like the other way around. I think that the second year I felt like I was ready for challenges and I took some challenges. I think my first quarter away was in Hamburg, which was at the time one of the toughest schools to go. I think it was a really good place for execution and to learn skills in terms of production and like how to bring ideas to life. But I went to Hamburg with very shitty level of English, like I could barely speak English at all, and no presentation skills, no English skills, and yes, what I thought it was enough to, you know, do like ideas and Photoshop and like design and as an art director, visualizing things. Hamburg was really tough, but I learned so much. I think like they had all these like courses where like you had to do a photo assignment every week and everything. And there I lost a lot of my fear to compete. And I also, you know, learn a bit of more like the competitive side or working outside of Spain. Like when you work with people who are younger than you and smarter than you, at least for me, that was like a way of waking me up a little bit. So Hamburg was really good in that. And I think like that prepared me for what's to come later. The second quarter away that I did, I think everyone wanted to go for the shiny like locations to go for away. Like I think everybody wanted to go to London, New York, San Francisco. And I think that was great. But I had this friend at the time, and he's still my friend, but I haven't seen him in a long time. He's an amazing creative. He's Pablo Jove. He's been in South America working for years now, and he's super fun. And he came to me one day. It's like, listen, everyone wants to go to New York and San Francisco. They're gonna have like very little chance to actually do work there. They're gonna be going to classes and everything. But there is this opportunity to go to Dallas, go to Texas in the US, to this Hispanic agency. No one has gone there ever before, so we're gonna have the chance to actually go into agency work from the beginning. And that's what we did. We went, 3 of us actually, to this agency called Este in Dallas, and I think like that was one of the most critical points for me. Like, I went to a place where we came like very scared about like, oh, we're gonna be in an agency, are we gonna be able to perform? And that this is a learning for all of you guys. I discovered that I came to an agency where my skills in terms of like, I'm a young person who knows what's going on digital, who knows what's going on in culture. I have the energy, I have like the hunger. That was super valued then. And so basically like they gave us the keys to all the projects there. Like that agency at the time had like, for that internship, had like, you know, a lot of like older creatives, and we came in like the young boys and like with, you know, no fear to anything. And that was great. That was like a super cool experience for me. And then the second thing that I learned there was also like the value of networking, which for you guys, if you're in your second year of the Miami Art School, you have to cultivate that so much. I think I was super lucky on that quarter away in Texas. I met this ECD, who executive creative director, who was like super friendly and took care of us. And then he helped me to get the last quarter away in New York. And that was like probably the best thing I could have done to almost like finish my quarter aways. Like I wanted to go to a place, you know, I went to Hamburg to flesh out my skills. I went to Texas to see how an agency was from inside and to have an opportunity to do real work, which we did. And then I wanted to go to the last place that was like, you know, the mecca of advertising at the time, to do like the best work possible. And I went to New York to do another internship at an Hispanic agency, but then at the same time we were doing classes on AKQA and we were like meeting with other guys there. And I think New York was like probably the last bit of training that I needed to get ready to get out there. I think New York was super challenging, like really tough. I enjoyed it a lot because I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't the best one on the group. I discovered pretty quickly that I wasn't the smartest, and that was like people way more talented than me. But that's something I always like in my career. I always like to work with people smarter than me because I can learn from them. And that thing that proved to be true, because years later, like from that group that were in New York with me from other schools, one of them is like the head of arts of Droga 5. The other one is the ECD of an agency in Amsterdam, and the other one, so, you know, like all these people became super successful after. So, you know, like I think it's, as a learning, it's good for you guys to plan your years in the Miami Art School in a way that is not just all about fun and friendship and traveling around and seeing the world. I think you have to take it seriously and plan it a little bit so you know that you're gonna make the most out of those years. I think the first year is okay to, you know, be more in a comfort zone and try things in Madrid and everything. But for those of you who can, that second year should be about challenging you as much as possible, because what's gonna come after is way harder. So, you know, like I think don't try to go to places that feel like the easy way out or that feels like the safe way out. I think like a lot of people in that time went to places that were like, oh, we're going to Amsterdam because it's very easy, blah, blah. And then like years later, they didn't have that, maybe that network build or that skills or that resilience that you need. So I finished the quarter away in New York. I wanted to stay there and I had a chance to stay there, but then there was some visa problems and I came back to Madrid. And that last trimester in the Miami Art School was when like the stubbornness that I was telling you about came in. Like my parents told me that after finishing the Miami Art School, I wasn't going to be able to stay in Madrid supported by them, which is completely reasonable. So I knew I had to make the most out of those 3 months. So I remember it was around summer. So I remember like a lot of people in the school and around my friends and everything were like just having fun and chilling. And I remember like I spent those 3 months working on the portfolio every day. I think like I remember like trying to do animation, trying to do my website, trying to do side projects. And in the meantime, like trying to get to know as many people as possible and trying to find out what I wanted to do after. So we finished the Miami Art School that year in summer. I think it's around August or something. And again, like I think a lot of people after finishing with the portfolio and the portfolio review and everything, they decide to take a break, but I couldn't do that. So I remember like over the time of 2 weeks, I maybe did like 30 interviews. I basically talked to everyone who was to talk in Madrid at the time. And that was like also like a bit of an eye opener. I think I talked to many places. I think most of them offered just like an internship with little or no money. And the stubbornness in me was also like something that told me like, no, I come from New York. I come from this. I'm very confident in my skills. So I think I deserve something better. So that was a choice, and it's a choice that you guys are going to have to make if you can, like saying no to things that maybe seem very, shiny objects because it's a big agency. But if you feel like you're not going to be happy because the money is going to be an issue, at least, to a little bit to feel like, dignified by it, or you feel like the place is just big, but you don't like the clients or you don't like the vibe. I think like it's good to stick to your guns and make sure that you make the right choice, because that first choice you make is going to be one of the most important things you're going to do on your career later on. So I had all these, talks and interviews, many options, but none of them felt like really great. And I remember this lesson that I learned later. I think there is this guy from the founder of Alibaba, like the network for like the eBay in Asia and everything. And there is this speech where he says that there's like different phases in your life, your 20s, your 30s, and your 40s, 50s. He's like, in your 20s, you should try to make as many mistakes as possible. And when you think about career, you should always follow the people that you admire. You should always like try to find the best boss possible. And then he says on their 30s, you need to like try to, invest on yourself and like, learn your better skills. And then in your 40s, 50s, you need to stick to what you do well and teach other people. So that tip, that advice of like in your 20s, when you start in advertising, don't go for big agency names, don't go for big clients, don't go for the money only. Try to find the people you want to work with. That was one of the most useful things that I learned over that time. So I, from all the offers I had, something funny happened. The teachers at the time were Rafa Fortis and Rafa Hill, which I still love, and I'm super thankful to them. They were at the time like starting their own agency with some friends, and they told us like, well, you can come with us. We don't have much money to offer you, but you're gonna be, working with us in the same briefs that we do, in the same ideas in a very horizontal level. And that is like that was something that was very interesting to me. Like, working with someone I admire in a way that was like giving me access to work beyond like a big name agency or beyond like a lot of money or something. That was like for me the definition factor. So I went to them, and then I don't know if they're gonna hate me for telling this story, but 2 days after starting to work with them, Rushmore called, Señora Rushmore, and an agency that I love in Madrid. And this guy I did an interview with, he had a digital department at Rushmore at the time, and he had like an amazing team. He told me like, listen, I'm ready to give you a job, not as an intern, but as like with a contract. Like you will be a junior, you will be working in the creative team, and you will have a permanent job. So I spoke with Rafa Hill and Rafa Fortis, and they were so nice. They were like so good to me. And like they told me like, listen, take that opportunity. That's it's like a something secure, and it's like a great place to go. You like the creative director there, you like the agency, you like the clients, and it's a good opportunity. So at that time, I was very lucky. I think that also has to do with the stubbornness I was talking to you guys about before. Like, I didn't take any of the options that were like either not well paid or not interesting enough. I worked my ass off that second year. I will remember like spending nights learning about how to design things. I'm not a designer by trade. I didn't study design, so I have to learn everything after the school. And I took like the most challenging like corporate ways possible during those years. So, it was tough, but I think like it was really interesting. And then I went to Rushmore, and I was so lucky to work not just with the city I wanted to, but my partner at the time was a super senior writer. And basically like I became this guy who was like not knowing anything, but in the middle of everything. We did stuff for Aquarius that went super well and like became like, really good work. I worked with Vizcaíno, which was like so nice, such a nice guy. Paco was there. Basically like a lot of the cities and people who were in Rushmore at the time are now all over the world. Like Paco Conde is now like mega boss of like this super cool agency in LA, and like, you know, Carlos Alija is now in New York also. So it was like really talented people, and I was there, as I was saying, I was there for the people, so that was great for me, and I learned so much. And then after 5 years there, we started like doing not just digital interactive but other type of work. We were a strange team. We were like 3. So one of us was like a programmer, developer who was really good at design and really good at also concepting. And the other one was a guy who came with us, and he was my partner for almost 6 years, Carlos Font. So the 3 of us together decided like to try something else. And then the networking thing that I was talking about before came in. Like, the networking is so important. And through a contact that I can say now is Juan Sevilla, who is an amazing creative also now in Wieden, London. We got in touch with the people in Amsterdam with 72 and Sunny, which is a great agency. And then we were trying to make the decision of leaving or not. And then we discovered that the ECD of this agency is Carlo Cabezone, which is like, again, a boss to follow, you know, like somebody you want to work with. That guy has done like the best Nike work you've seen in the last 15 years. He's done like every Nike World Cup campaign. He's done like campaigns for like amazing projects with Nike mainly. And he was a guy who was like so nice and creating amazing stuff. So the 3 of us went to Amsterdam, and that was a little bit like starting over. I kind of like highlight enough the importance of speaking proper English. After 5 years in Rushmore, my English was shit. And I spent at least half of my first year in Amsterdam, you know, with a bit of like a pain here, because I was all the time trying to understand what people were saying in meetings. So above every tip that everybody gives you, if you're working in Madrid and you want to get out, start like kicking ass with English today. Like it's just like, it makes such a big difference to be able to speak and present and be yourself. Like I know that Paco was talking about it the other day. So, you know, get to it today, even if you're not planning to go till like the end of the year. So we were in Amsterdam for 6 years. There I was like involved in like Samsung campaigns and Google campaigns, and was super fun. Obviously with the pass of time, like things changed a little bit. So my partners at the time left, and I was by myself, and I found myself doing an Adidas project for the World Cup. That was really cool, but really, really tiring. And at that time, the creative directors that were working with me in that campaign, they, you know, for different reasons, they like were not so much into the project. So I found myself suddenly like, you know, I was like 29 or 30 years old, and suddenly like leading a World Cup campaign with my ECDs and my producers. And it was like fucking scary, but, you know, I really enjoyed the challenges. So like that was really fun for me too. And after the World Cup thing came out and we finished it, Carlo, the ECD and 72, he told me like, do you want to be a creative director? Because, you know, there's an opening. We want people who can like lead the team and everything. And it's something I never wanted to be honest. Like I never wanted to be a creative director. That's something that I always loved much more, to be on the side of the ideas and coming up with ideas. But then when the opportunity came, felt like it's either now or like never, you know, not that dramatic, but it felt like it was another challenge, and I had to do it, you know, like, and I jumped into it. I was CD of Adidas for a year or so. And then after that, it was almost my 6th year in Amsterdam. It was really cool, but it starting to feel a little bit like what happened in Madrid, a little bit too comfy. And we started like, you know, I started thinking what else, like what's next, to, you know, to reignite a little bit and to get excited a little bit. And then Tokyo came up. Like I heard that this new ECD was coming to Tokyo from the Wieden London office. They had Nike, they had Netflix, they had like, you know, amazing accounts. I love Japanese culture, as you can say, for my tattoos and things like that. And I knew the ECD, and I knew like the head of production too, which was a good friend of mine. So when they asked me to come, I think like I thought about it for like 5 minutes, and I was like, yeah, cool, let's go to Tokyo. So I've been here for 2 months. It's really cool. It's like, you know, it's like a completely different planet, but I also had experience working with China and everything. So it felt like the right thing to do to come and, you know, enjoy Asia a little bit. And I always wanted to work with Nike, like selfishly, I cannot lie about it. It's an account that for me has always been like the big thing to end up with. And I've been given that opportunity, and now I'm like here trying to enjoy as much as possible the state of emergency and what's going on in Tokyo. And also, like, again, taking the challenge of working in a different language with translators involved and with different clients and managing teams that speak maybe a different language or don't know your culture at all. So I think like that's something that I've been able to go through thanks to a little bit that stubbornness that I was saying before. I think like the learning of like those years in the Miami Art School and what came after helped me to get here. And I think that's why it's so important for you guys to, you know, recapping a little bit what I was saying, to make sure that you hit or you check those boxes. Like, of course, I was saying before about English. This is something that you need to do if you want to get out. But I think the second thing is, as I was mentioning before, networking and contacts and like getting to know people and stay close to the people who is leading in the industry is key. Like, you know, find out those guys that you admire, whether they're in Spain, in Madrid, or big agency, small agency, or in the other side of the world. You know, like there is always someone that you would love to work for and work with. And I think between your 20s and your early 30s, like those are the years for you not to get obsessed with big agencies, but to get obsessed with people who are talented, because like you need to learn from them. Like I think when you come to agencies, your best tool is going to be your energy, and it's going to be like your capability of thinking ideas, but you don't know anything about process, and you don't know anything about like, you know, how an agency works internally. So you need to be with someone who's going to give you the chance to learn. And I think I was so lucky that happened to me in Rushmore, for example. Edu de la Ran is the CD there. He was like, I love him to death. He was a pain in the ass, but at the same time, so honest and so good. And I felt like I was learning from him. And Munia Bilbao, which is the CD in Rushmore now, she was also my senior partner, and she never like thought, oh, you're a junior, you're an intern, you're not like, you shouldn't be like trying to work on this. She was always like super open. So like working with people who can teach you, it's almost like the most important thing that you guys can do now when you get out and start like finding a job. And that happened the same when I went to Amsterdam with Carlo, and I'm hoping that happens the same here that I'm with Scott. I think like follow the people more than the big agency names. It's one of the most important things I can tell you. And then the last thing is what I was saying before in like the theme of this chat, and I'm going to stop talking very soon because we need to go to the questions, is the stubbornness. And that understood as a positive thing, not being stubborn without being open to opinions. It's more like being super confident with what you want and being, you know, ready to give whatever it takes to get to that goal that you want. I think like when you guys are finishing, you need to think about where do you want to get, which type of agencies you want to work on, and then also like which type of work do you want to do, and then like you need to be able to do whatever it takes to get there. That might involve, you know, not sleeping for nights learning how to do things, and that might involve working on weekends and sacrificing holidays, and you know, like that might involve like working in ways that you didn't think about, or like with people that you didn't think about, but like at the end having that goal in your head is going to be like the most important thing. And I think that helped me a lot. I think there is, of course, different types of stubbornness. I've seen through my career, like people who are so confident in their ideas that they are listened and they're like, you know, the center of attention because they're geniuses and they're so good at that. And I think they are super stubborn about the ideas they have and super defensive at that, which is great. Then there is other type of stubbornness, which is maybe more like the one I have, which is like, I don't know how to do something, but I'm going to learn how to do it. And that makes you like a valuable person for an agency. And I think that you can be either or maybe two. But if you're great with ideas and concepts, you will come into an agency and be valued for that. And if you're great with skills and you're a team player and you're somebody trustable and consistent, you will be valued for that. But you need to make sure that somehow you're pushing one of those two things. And with that, I'm gonna invite Martin. There you go. It's gonna work. Let's see. Fingers crossed. Martin, I just invited you there. Connecting. There you go.
Hello.
Wait, let me put this. Hi. How are you? Sorry that I thought I was gonna be shorter, but like when I started speaking about myself, as usual, it just like took longer than I thought.
No, it's really cool to hear from you.
Nice. You're Madrid right now?
No, I'm in Portugal.
Oh, nice. Cool. So for everyone, like we saw like all the chats that you guys have before with like Paco and the rest of the people, and we thought like it was very interesting, but I felt it was missing a little bit like the chance for people to hear a conversation about things. And I also felt like some of the questions that you guys were asking were getting lost. So I think we have Martin here to help with that and keep this more as a conversation than as like a single person talking all the time.
Okay, so we should start with Lucia.
Cool.
¿Qué recomiendas a alguien que acaba de terminar sus prácticas y está buscando un junior en estos momentos?
It's gonna be fun because we're gonna be switching English to Spanish in a bit. Maybe I'll translate the question and we do everything in English. So
Okay.
Because like that's easier for everyone. So the question was like, what do you recommend to someone who is what did she say? Like finishing their studies?
Finishing the interns and looking for a junior placement in these moments.
Finishing the internship or finishing the studies? Sorry.
Sus prácticas.
Sus prácticas. Well, I think like what I was saying before, I think like the first thing you have to do is first of all knowing what you want and know what you want to get. What type of agency do you want to get and what type of work do you want to do? I think like right now you can decide to try to work more for like interactive and digital. You might want to do more work that is more storytelling and then work in a more traditional place, or you want to be more in product innovation. You know, so there's so many things, but in a way you need to start defining a little bit what type of advertising you like. You know, what makes you want to fall in love with an idea and with a campaign, and that, you know, has many forms of that. I think like knowing a little bit the type of work that you want and the type of people that you like, that is very important. Like it's better than to try to go out and reach out to everyone and trying to knock on every door, because then chances are that you are gonna miss some opportunities. So first of all, seeing who you want to talk to and who you want to work for, that would be my first thing. And then the second thing is, you know, like be also ready to make decisions and sacrifices around it. Like, are you gonna be okay saying no to things because either the money or the type of work they're gonna give you is not gonna be good enough? And I think that's very important. But for me, the best advice is try to first call and push on everyone that you would love to work for. Like right now, you know, like I was thinking about people I would like to work for now. And when you see, for example, creatives like the chief editor of Vogue, like Ferdinando Verderi, like this guy who is basically like turning Vogue upside down, and like he's turning a fashion magazine into something that we've never seen before. As a junior creative, I know that's not an agency, but I would love to work for him. You know, I would love to learn from him. So it's just finding that person or that place that you will be inspired by. And that's it.
Cool. Mary's asking, what advice would you give to an advertising student that wants to work on the creative side?
Well, I assume that she means that she's studying advertising, but not, you know, not one type of advertising in particular. I think like it's very tricky to start as a creative in an agency with non-creative background. I think like, of course, this is something you can do on your own, but I think like it would be good for someone at least to try to, for a few months, to study something more connected to creativity. I think like jumping straight from college or from the universidad, from college to a job and trying to be creative is very tough, because agencies not so often had the time to teach you the very, very basics. I think people who come out from masters and from MBAs and courses and things like that, at least they know the basics. And I think like jumping from a college directly to an agency is very difficult. Of course, you can try smaller agencies and you can try other things, but I think like at least try to find a way to learn and to form yourself. And that can be like, you know, online courses, or that can be like listening to talks about creativity. That can be like asking for someone to give you advice in one-on-one through email. But you need to, when you go to an agency, you need to at least know a little bit of the basics, because my experience tells me that when you go to an agency not knowing the basics, rarely people have the time to you know, to teach you with the speed of things. It's very, very rare. But that is if you come from advertising. I think like for people who come from like arts or design or things like that, sometimes it's easier to get in agencies straight from college. But if you come from just studying advertising teaches you about like law in advertising, planning, the words of advertising. It's like not very practical for an agency.
Okay. Rui is a senior account manager already working for a big agency, and he would like to try to work in a more creative role. But the problem, he has no skills in terms of design, and he's already 35 years old. Do you have any ideas on how to start?
Yeah, I think probably if he wants to get into the creative side, is because he feels he has some talent for it. So I think like I've seen that a lot in agencies. I've seen a lot of people who wants to change from one department to another, and it's all down to you know, convincing the agency to let you try. I think like no agency is gonna say no to one of their workers to try something. Like I think unless it's a very, you know, old school place or in a tough position. But like I've seen producers, I've seen brand people, I've seen designers, I've seen like people from all departments wanted to switch to creative. And if the agency has the time and has like the flexibility, it's something that you can literally go and talk to the agency and maybe like it's something gradual. You can tell them like, hey, can I, you know, shadow the creatives for a while and see how they work? Can I help here and there? Can I try? And it's sort of a matter of trying. And I think if you're stubborn, like we were saying before, you will try and you will try to do your both work. But I think it's not a crazy thing to ask. And, you know, an agency might be gaining a creative suddenly. So just ask for an opportunity.
Alex asked, how can he be valued on an agency he just started on?
That's a good question. I think Pablo and Paco and everyone before me said the same. I think like you need to know yourself better, yourself really well as a creative. You need to be very aware of not just your goals, but what are your skills. You need to find what Pablo was saying the other day. What is the different thing that you can offer to the agency? When I started as a junior creative, my thing wasn't ideas. Like I'm very honest. Like I was very slow coming up with concepts, and I wasn't perfect doing that. My skills then was more like art direction and design. And I decided to take the skills and push it. And I became like maybe an art director to go for many projects, and that opened me doors to work with creatives and learn more about like ideas and with more senior people. But I think finding that skill that you have and like squeezing everything out of it is the best thing you can do. Are you very good at presenting? Are you very good at like designing? Are you very good at like, you know, strategy? Are you like, you need to find that thing, that good thing you have, and became like this super valuable person for the agency. I think like people want to have like junior and interns in their agency that they can trust for at least one thing. Nobody's gonna ask your junior and your intern to do all the job, but if you know that that person is a good writer or a good designer or a good like strategic person or like good presenting or researching, you're gonna give them that task, and if they do that well, they're suddenly becoming like a key part of your team.
Okay. So we have Sarah. Sarah is a Spanish girl, and she said English is so important, so she decided to go to Miami at school in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And her question is if you recommend to go on the quarterways every quarter to a different place, or pick one and two and try to get a job there.
That's a very, very personal decision. When I did the ones in the Miami Art School in both in New York and in Texas, I had the options to stay, but I decided to finish the portfolio in Madrid and then look again. I think personally, I recommend that, but this is my point of view. I don't think there is like a golden rule for this. My opinion is to try as many different spaces as possible. I think, you know, I could have stayed in Hamburg, or I could have stayed working in Texas, but trying different places was like what opened me so many doors. Miami Art School, the second year, as I was saying before, the more people you meet, the more doors you're gonna have to open over the next 10 years. Like I'm still today talking to people who I study with or work with in different agencies. So I think like you have to see Miami Art School as a door to connect to people that otherwise you will never have a chance. Like, you know, it's very tempting to stay in a place that feels right, but if the place likes you and they have an opportunity, you can always come back. You know, like I think The creatives and the people you might know in the next place might have an impact on your career 20 years later or 10 years later.
Okay. Shanna asks if you think that the first agency experience should be a big one or a small one.
I think that's what I was saying before in the advice. I think what you have to do is not follow so much big or small agency, but think about the type of work you want to do and the people who does it. I think you can find the best creative to follow, and he might be in a small place, or you might go to a super big place, and if your bosses are not right for you and they don't give you opportunities, is like a waste of time. So don't think so much about big or small places, because both of them are doing great work and shitty work everywhere. Think more about the people you want to work with.
Okay, we have Amaya. Did you know which agency or country did you want to work in before you finished Miami at school? Or
Yeah.
you just let yourself go, you know?
When I was in New York, my goal was to work in AKQA. Before I went to New York to Miami Art School, before I went to New York in the months before Miami Art School, I had no idea what type of creative I wanted to be. And just like the time I spent in New York in classes in AKQA made me fall in love with like interactive advertising and you know, digital and interactive and experimental. And I was super sure that that's what I wanted to do. But then, like, with the crisis and everything, my parents couldn't support me, so I needed to find a job that could pay for everything, and the visa was also a problem. But yeah, I knew on my last quarter away the type of agency I wanted to work with and the place I wanted to go. It didn't happen, but at least it gave me an idea of like what I wanted to do afterwards.
Okay. Pablo asks if you see a future in creative advertising or it's going to be all branded content.
I think like both of those things are gonna keep going. I think like creative advertising is gonna stay as it is. It might change the people doing it. I think what might change is like what we consider today an agency. I see now, you know, a lot of creative coming from production companies, a lot of creating coming directly from in-house agencies and clients, a lot of creative work coming from freelancers directly from clients. So I think like creative advertising is still there. Who is coming from and who is doing it is changing a little bit. Whether it's like branded content, whether it's like campaigns or everything. But I think like that is gonna stay the same. It just change who is doing it and the company is doing it. But that is gonna still, you know, be here.
Okay. Carlos says he's in Miami, in Madrid, because he wants to work in advertising agencies, but he's already picturing himself going through other areas such as communication and sports departments or music festivals, you know, the production companies. So if you believe that a portfolio created in Miami for the purpose of working in advertising agencies can open also the other doors for the industries.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what people in those industries will be looking for, but yeah, definitely. Like I think if those people are interested in ideas, I think they will see the value of the ideas, no matter if it's for an agency or not. And I think it's super interesting. I think like, you know, it's like when our parents used to tell us like, you don't have to always go to college. I think there is other jobs in life that you can take, and you don't have to start in college. I think the same is now for agencies. I think everybody thinks that the only thing you can do is work for an agency. And right now, like whether you're an intern or like an expert, that is not the case. Like right now, you can work with like, you know, other companies. You can work, like I was saying before, with inside agencies. You can work with clients directly. You can work with like production companies who are doing great stuff. So, you know, it's I think like it's the case now that you have everything to choose. And I like that there is people who's in the Miami Art School not to finish in an agency. I think that's completely like a valid choice.
Okay. Elena is asking what kind of working schedule is normal to have, and what about the salary? Because she's curious about it.
Working schedule, none. I think like it's like a emergency room, you know. Like I think, sorry for the comparison, not the best one now, but I think like you have to be ready to, you know, it's all up to you. I've met people who are so talented and so skillful, that they will do the job of a day in half an hour. I'm not the case. If I want to do something, I need like hours to find the references, to think about the idea, to order my ideas. So I needed to put like so many hours, and that's not great for relationships. That's not great for like work-life balance. But at the same time, I love my job, so that's okay. And in terms of salary, I think you guys have a teacher there. It's called Vicente Navarro.
Yeah.
So one of the most amazing tips that he gave me when I was finishing, he told me one day, I was like looking for offers and the portfolio thing, and like he told me one day, like, yeah, it's good to ask for what you think you deserve for money when you start, but money, if you're good at your job, money always comes. And that's something that became so true to me. Like, I think I've never had to really push a lot for salary. If you're in a place and you do your work well, you become important for that place, and that place will make sure that you stay happy. And that is for everyone. Like, I think money shouldn't be your main driving thing when you start looking for internships and practices. That being said, I think you should ask for what you think is fair. But I feel like it's a very, it's a very important issue that when you're in your 20s, you can find ways to work around. When you're in your 40s with a family and everything, money is very important. But now it's a bit of a different thing.
Yeah,
I think we have like maybe 4 or 5 minutes more. I talk way too much. Sorry.
Okay, so just 2 last questions. Again from Sarah from Toronto. She's very interesting on a quarter way to Asia. How is advertising in Japan, if you recommend it?
Yeah, I think it's a good place. I think if you want to come to Asia for advertising, I think the first place to go is China. I think Japan is very good, but it's more like a more local advertising culture. I think China maybe has more opportunities, if you ask me. I like more personally Japanese advertising culture, but I also work a lot for like things in China. And I think it's a super interesting place. I think you come here bringing your knowledge and your culture from Europe or from the US. And I think like you're listened to and you're respected. And I think it's a place that it has so many opportunities, and it's a really good place to come and try. I will definitely recommend it.
Just a question now I have. You said that you work in Japan, but you also work with things for China. Do you really think that you only find the differences between those places when you work there, or when you were already in Europe, you already had that?
I already had it, because when I was in Amsterdam, I worked with China when I was working from Amsterdam, not now. When I was in Amsterdam, I was working for Samsung, which is Korean, and you learn a lot about like Korean culture and Korean clients. And when I was working for Adidas China, I work with China. So I think like you learn the difference from the moment you start working with advertising in Asia, which is different, but it's not like, science. It's something you can learn. It's like, going from Madrid to the US is a different market, but you learn it. It's not impossible.
Okay. So Gustavs asks, how was it to work with Salomon Lighton on the 70 years? And how big was your involvement in the process?
Well, I was the creative director with Salomon. I was the creative director of the campaign, and Salomon is like such a talented guy. He's like, it's when you think you work hard and you think like you work a lot, you only need to meet directors. Because usually like young directors and talented directors, what you think is working a lot, they are like basically like living in front of like a camera and shooting. He was working so hard, and we were shooting that, and he was shooting another thing his days off, and he was like preparing something else later. So I think like that also like was one of the things that pushed me to try something else, like meeting a creative who was like dedicating 100% of his time to create stuff also pushes you a lot. And I think like it's great to have the chance to work with such a talented people.
How challenging was it to shoot on an analog film?
Yeah, it was challenging. We were the first day, or the first shoot day, we were shooting, and I remember like they told us like, you have like 8 rolls to shoot this scene this morning, 8 rolls of film. And it was the first time shooting with film. I was like, oh, that's cool. That should be fine. And then we started shooting. And after the first hour shooting these athletes, the producer comes to me. It's like, yeah, we've used like half of them, and we've only 1 hour in. So then you start panicking, but the result is always worth it. I love to shoot on film, and I love photography too. So film for me is like, if I could choose every time, I'll do it for sure.
Okay. Do you have ever limited sense creating ideas in another language?
No, I think when I came to, funny enough, like when I came to Amsterdam to work, after 5 years in Madrid, I've lost a lot of practice thinking and presenting in English. So at that time, you use a lot of internet translates and Google translates, and it's not always right. But if your boss is somebody who wants you for your ideas and not for your language skills, you'll be fine. Like my boss, Carlo, was Italian, and he told me the first day, like, listen, the first 6 months, you're not gonna know where you are. Everything is gonna be a mess. So don't stress, learn the language properly, and bring ideas, and we'll work it out. And that's why meeting the right boss is so important.
Okay. I guess that's it.
If there is one more, we have time for one more. If not, like, we can let people rest and not listen to me more.
I just had one question that I really wanted to ask you. Is there any idea or campaign from someone that you really admired, because you talk about admiring someone, that you just like wanted to do and trade for any of your ideas that you have on your current portfolio?
Yeah, what I was saying, well, first of all, I think probably any of the work that Kako has been doing over the last few years is something I would love to do. Like, he's been shooting with Spike Jonze and Daniel Wolf and amazing films and everything. But beyond that, what I was saying before, Ferdinando Verderi, the Italian guy who is now like the creative director of Vogue magazine, I think everything he's doing, like every week, he's like blowing your mind. Right now, like he released today an idea. Was like, I think he's doing like a like two gender magazine. One is like the Vogue magazine, and then Uomo Vogue, and he's doing the same photo with a male and a female, and like mixing both. Like everything he's doing over the last 2 years is like, so I would love to do anything of what he's doing, or even just like bring him coffee or whatever.
Okay. Well, I guess that's what it.
Okay. Sorry, because I feel like maybe I cut some of the questions because I was speaking for almost like 25 minutes at the beginning. So sorry for that. For everyone who was listening and I couldn't answer their questions, like, you guys can reach out to me by email or Instagram or whatever. I'm happy to help. And it's been a pleasure, Martin. Thank you so much. I wanted to do this way because I feel like it makes it more interactive and interesting. And I think it does. I think it makes it like more fluid to be able to tell this story to someone. So thank you so much.
See you.
Okay, now let me hope I don't fuck this up ending the thing. Okay, have a good night, everyone, or a good day there. Thank you.
You too. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.